Hi, I'm Tom Laux, Communications Director, City of Marshfield, and thank you for joining me on my program, Connections. And today I have Ed Wagner, District 5 Alderman, with me.
Well, hi, Tom. Good to be here with you.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining me. And he's back as an alderman with the city. We're going to get to know what he wants to do and his passions for why he's back. I know he has a passion in this, there's no doubt about it. But first, I want to get to know him and have you guys get to know him as well. Start off a little history of your family, and we'll get right into business from there.
Well, thank you, Tom. I've been in Wisconsin since 1975, I guess it was. And my wife of 8 months and I moved here. I moved up from Florida, and I was raised in Florida. We lived in Ashland for 10 years, or a little over 10 years. And in Ashland, I was Director of Community Development for the city. And then I served 2 terms as mayor of Ashland. And I lost an election, and so looking for another job, I was hired here in Marshfield as director of the Greater Marshfield Inc., which is the private nonprofit economic development organization here. And that went under in 2 years because they combined it with the Chamber of Commerce, and they formed this new group you might have heard of. They called Mackey. Yeah, so my job and the other director's job became the director's job for Mackey. So so I spent a few years in the private sector, although I did do 1 term as a city administrator in Bram, Minnesota. And I'm back here, and I worked for a Berg Equipment Company for a number of years, 11 or 12 years, I believe it was. And I ran for council in 2006, I believe. And I stayed on till 2018. And my health was getting pretty bad by that time. I was having a lot of trouble. And I didn't feel I could do the job, so I did not run again in 2018. And I was right. I had a heart attack like 3 weeks after after my last council meeting. So at least I was right about something once. And after 2 years off, I just couldn't stand it. I got to get back into it. I don't know if anybody knows what a fire horse is. In the olden days, when the fire wagon was pulled by horses, well, they would retire the horses, but every time the fire bell rang, they still ran. And that's pretty much what I am. When the fire bell rings, I still run through it.
Yeah, it's you live it, yeah. and it's just not going to go away. It's part of your life.
That's true. I think the love for this, especially love for cities. I've never had any desire to move on beyond the city or maybe county level. And the reason for that was in college, I think in my junior year, I took my first course in city planning, and I realized how powerful that was and how local government, city government is where you are in direct contact with the people. You get the direct feedback, which is a great thing. And I've always loved it, and I don't think I'd do anything else.
Yeah, and definitely city planner is one of those positions that you did. Mm-hmm. And really, a lot of times they move up into that administrative or mayor area. I see that a lot. That's a pretty important position within the city. It is.
I was a political science major, but I specialized in public administration. And I graduated from what is now University of Central Florida. It was then Florida Technological University, because we were exactly 20 miles from the spaceport, and we were supposed to provide all the engineers, scientists, and administrators for the space program. So the good news about that is I had to have 9 hours of engineering training before I could get my political science degree. So at least I can talk the same language as the engineers, and over the years it's helped me a great deal.
You bet it does, and we're very grateful for having you on the council with that experience. Not everybody that is on the council would have experience in local government like yourself, and it does make a difference. There's no doubt about it.
Thank you. Sometimes you feel like it's beating your head up against the wall, but it's nice to know that some people understand.
Yeah, the language is a lot easier and helpful for you when you're dealing with city staff and city administration, because you've done it on another level,
right,
and it's easier to relate. But let's bring it right into today a little bit. Your position as District 5, and you just started in April of 2020. It's a 2-year term, is that right? And so you're just starting the term. That means that you're on some committees, I believe.
Yes.
Can we talk a little bit about what committees that you are on and how you were put on that committee?
Well, I had requested, traditionally in my prior terms, I had served on the Board of Public Works because I like to have a handle on streets and alleys and that sort of thing, and also on the Planning Commission. I requested different assignments this time. I requested Airport Committee, and I also requested Finance, Budget, and Personnel. Well, I got on Finance, Budget, and Personnel, and I got named chairman of it. So I'm enjoying that role. One of the things that's interesting is whenever there are conflicts in personnel things, they come to this committee, and that's a little bit different than what I'm used to doing. But fortunately, I forgot to mention at the tender young age of 64, I started law school. I forgot to tell you that, but I did 1 year of it before I realized that you don't have the memory that you have when you're 19 years old. But that kind of thing helped me adjudicate things, and I'm beginning to feel more comfortable with it.
Yeah, law degree. That would be tough. You could become a city attorney next. Not an easy job.
No.
And going through that. But you were put on the airport committee, and our airport where is it at right now in stages of Wood County? Is there 2 airports, including one in Southwood County then?
Yeah, there's one. There's one in Southwood County, and Southwood County, because of the big golf course going down in Adams, they got a special grant to do some work there at their airport, and they're getting a lot of jet traffic in. We get a lot of medical traffic in here, medical jets in here. We don't get the same kind of leisure thing that they do. But a number of years ago, I think 2010, we did some crack filling on the runways, and it didn't do real well. It was really bad, and we were having some real difficulty bringing jets in here because one of our big users, big company jet, was no longer coming in here because the runway was so rough. Just yesterday, we received notification that Bureau of Aeronautics is soliciting bids to do crack repair and minor resurfacing of the runway, and they're also going along with a new 5-year master plan for the airport. So I was greatly relieved to see that information come in yesterday, and hopefully it'll carry on. Yeah, the airport is a really important piece. It's another hub for local business, and you need it, and you have one here. You might as well use it to the best of your ability. The city contributes to that. Is that how that works? Yeah, it is. Although that's one of the best grant programs in the world, because they between the state and the feds, they pay 95% of the cost. We only pay 5%. Oh, wow. So that's one of the best deals the city can get. So it's a really good deal. Yeah, it is. As long as you can keep up with it and the technology that comes with it. We have that serviced by a contractor, is that right? The airport, is that how that's handled? Yeah, we have a private contractor. That's Duffy's Aircraft and Sales that are out there. And they've been there a long time, and they're doing a really great job. Yeah, because I believe they're also out of Neilsville. Yeah, they are. Yeah, that's correct. So, great. Well, I'm glad that you're on that committee. Let's talk about finance personnel. That is a huge committee. Yeah. That's one of the bigger ones of that and public works and planning. Yeah. What do you have to know on this finance committee so our viewers know a little bit about that? Well, you've got to understand a little bit about how the how budgets are put together, where the revenues come from. The hardest thing is to figure out what pocket the money's coming out of, because there's all these different pockets. It's not only the pockets that the money comes into, it's pockets that the money goes out to. For instance, we got to pay a portion of the county's tax levy too. We have to pay for the VTAE district. We have to pay for this. We have to pay the state too. Mm-hmm. So we have a number of things in there that have to you have to understand those. The hardest thing to understand, I think, for the layman is the debt service. The debt service is when you borrow money, you got to pay it back. Well, what you pay back is called the debt service, and we have a limit, and we're trying to stay within those limits to keep our bond ratings high and to keep the taxes low.
Yeah, it sounds like we're taping this here on Thursday before a council meeting, which is going to be on the agenda, talking about borrowing. I believe that's on there, borrowing $6.8 million, close to that.
I think that's what it was.
Yeah.
I think it was a little less than that.
Yeah.
No, excuse me. There was some confusion about that, because initially,
Right.
when the budget was passed, the $3 million for the pool was put in there.
Yep.
And then somewhere around April or May, they said, well, we're probably not going to borrow that this year.
That's right.
Because things had hit sort of the COVID and everything else.
Yep.
But then, of course, some angel came in and saved the pool project, and now we are going to borrow the $3 million. And the other $3 million that's in there is pretty much standard. We always, the goal we used to have was to keep municipal borrowing down between $2.5 and $3 million a year, because that was replacing almost as much as we were paying off. So we wouldn't have too much of an increase, or if any increase in the burden on the taxpayers. So the real difference is the pool. There may be a few other, I hate to call them that, trinkets thrown in there, but there may be some other things thrown in there that aren't that. And I think there were some questions that the members of the committee had asked that haven't been addressed yet, that may end up as being taken out of the borrowing too. But so far, I don't know what those are just yet.
Yeah, well, I'm sure you guys will be talking about it on that Tuesday, but that's so important to get the bond rating back to double or AAA status, and because that'll give you a lower interest rate. If we can get, interest rates are still really good.
No, they are.
They're
awesome.
Excellent. I mean, compared to back 20 years ago, Steve and I were talking about it would probably be 5-6%. I don't know. Now it's down to 1 or 2%. But
it's something below 2.
Yeah. So that's not a lot of money, as long as you're not spending more than you get in. Then we're in trouble. But
we're the only people who can actually, if the debts exceed our income, we can always vote ourselves more income, but that's when you get in trouble.
Yep. Well, let me get your views a little bit on how spending is done. Are you really trying to be fiscally responsible as an alderman and watch our P's and Q's, our money, and use our stuff that we have? I bet that's been coming up in discussion quite a bit. Is how do we continue using our vehicles that we've had? That's the talk now, and kind of the chatter around City Hall a little bit as well. What is your? We've heard it from aldermen, a couple of the aldermen about it.
Yeah,
I'm just kind of
actually that was one of the things I was referring to. The vehicles was one thing, and as I understand it, we're supposed to be getting a briefing on that next week too. And I heard from some department heads that they've sharpened the pencils really well, and they've looked at it, and I think with the one alder person who asked the question, she looked at all the vehicles replacement schedule, and she asked just one question: why? And made him go back and sort of evaluate if the paradigms of why you need to replace a certain vehicle in so many years is valid. And I think that's what they're going to come back and they're going to either justify that or change it. I'm not quite sure where it's going to go.
I know they have a vehicle replacement fund, which means it must funnel into that fund and that money is there. But I think some aldermen are saying, well, why not just save it for a rainy day or keep it there and not waste it, so we don't have to borrow for another piece of something. I don't know. We'll have to see what the discussion comes out.
And the question always is, and that's, as a policymaker, I'll talk about the policy thing too in a minute, but as a policymaker, what you look at is why are we doing things this way, and is it better for the public to keep a big rainy day fund and keep adding to that rainy day fund, or is it better to tax them less until you actually need it, and then ask them to tax them when that point? So that's the kind of policy decisions that an alderman has to make.
Yeah, and they're not easy.
No.
But you have to. That's part of what you signed up for, and were elected for by the people in your district to do that. So you serve on that committee, and then as well as the Common Council, because that's part of it. You're one of 10 for people that are new to watching government channel 991 and our Facebook and our YouTube channels, but you have a passion. We talked about that before, and you came back. What are some of the things that you hope to see maybe different or keep the same? What's different about this time versus two and a half years ago?
Actually, there's quite a bit different. I mean, this council is materially different than the council I left in 2018, and I think they're far more conservative. I think they're some of them are. Well, you've got two. What we like to refer to as lifers on the city council. We got Tom Butke and Mike Fire, and they've been around. Both of them came on at the same time, so I think this is their 22nd year.
Yeah, that's a long time.
Yeah, it is, and they pretty much know what they're doing. They understand it, and I think one of the reasons Mike doesn't participate in debate too much, but it's like he probably already knows where this conversation is going to go, and he just is getting impatient for it to get there. So get to the vote, right? But I think that there are a lot of things that I've wanted to do. I'm thrilled to see this communications department going. That was something I worked on, I think, for 4 years before I got off the council before, and I was very happy to see it happen.
Awesome.
I think we need to increase the transparency of government, and I think there are ways we can do that. I think there are tools in the toolbox that we're not using, and they need to be used. Not just for communications, but also for sort of streamlining the council procedures and keeping things moving forward. One big project that's been it's probably going to happen within the next 10 to 15 years. I may not even be around to see it finished, but I'm certainly going to try and get it started, is the 2nd Street Corridor project. The vision for what that corridor could be has never, ever, ever been fully explained to the Common Council or to the public. When Wenzel Park went in, we could take a lot of criticism from the community because they thought it was a waste. Thought it was a waste of money, waste of time. What they didn't see or couldn't understand was at least the piece of the vision that the Economic Development Board and the Planning Commission had seen for what could happen with that corridor from Miller Park all the way to Central Avenue. And actually it was extended all the way over to the library. But then, of course, you got to play Frogger to get across Central Avenue. But other than that, it's okay. There are a few people who know what Frogger is. But anyway,
I know what it is.
Okay, but I saw you chuckle.
Yep.
But anyway, but that vision, I want to see the start of that vision. I want to see it implemented, because I think that we always complain about downtown, about there isn't enough of this or that downtown. This is what will anchor downtown. quite frankly, I think the vision of it is, in the simplest terms I can find, is that corridor could be the recreation and entertainment center for the city of Marshfield.
One thing you got going here in Marshfield is, you got the central going through the downtown. This is one downtown that's strong. I've always seen it be one of the best. Points is getting better. They've really changed a lot. Rapids, no, that's just hard, the way it's laid out. And they're trying as well with their stuff. Right. Probably with their new Boys and Girls Club, that definitely helps a lot. And I worked for the mayor there for 8 years in Rapids, and very downtown and innovative kind of a person on that. And same with Marshfield. I think that is a great idea. I guess that gets talks with Weinbrenner, and it gets talks with we own the building, but it talks possibly with the street and the garage in that area. Yeah. That whole area in there is part of Second, isn't that all goes all
it's
the way
all
down?
part of the corridor.
Yeah, so down maybe 15, 20 years, like you say, that could be a possibility.
That's it, and I think one of the things we asked to do when they started talking about the doing a space needs study for the street department was time out. Consider the highest and best use of that land in this. What is the value of that land facing the parkway, facing downtown? Is that the best place to put that building? Is that the highest and best use? And if so, what would it cost to replicate it somewhere else? So that's the kind of thing that I asked to have done.
And hopefully that is going to be happening, because there's land out there. There were land that we actually own in industrial parks. Are we using it? Where is it going? So it all has to, and that's part of what you guys do as aldermen, is to refer that back.
And the hard part is getting other people to, first of all, understand that vision, and secondly, to agree with it. We have momentum to overcome, and tradition. A lot of things. The city garage has always been there, so it's going to always be there.
Yeah.
It may happen that way. If it does, it does, and we'll have to alter the vision to adjust to it or whatever. But that's one thing I'd really love to see before I get off the council this time. Or they carry me out. Either one.
Well, that'll be up to the public, I guess, unless, who knows, there's always things going on. It keeps us, you guys keep our ratings going.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, we do.
If it's just a dud meeting and there's no interaction and just a vote's yes, then we're not going to get any viewers. We know when the views come up on Facebook, and actually that addition has helped getting some engagement of people watching that didn't have access. They can watch that live, these meetings, which has been helpful, I think, for people.
I think it is,
especially with their mobile. Even if they're somewhere else, not in town, they can still be a part of it and listen. And we've done a lot with public comment. It's one of the things that I find useful here. I don't want to say useful, but really neat in Marshfield, which I didn't have in other communities I worked, is public comment. I like that idea.
Yeah,
you don't see that now. You did it. You're at the county board, right? Too.
Yeah, right.
And I know we didn't bring that up. What part do you serve there?
Thanks to Lance Plimmel. I was chairman of the executive committee when I got off the last time, which does the county budget, right? And they did away with the executive committee because they thought it was too powerful, and they called it the operations committee, but it still does the budget. And thank you, Lance, you appointed me as chairman of the operations committee. So I'm still messing with the budget. Just as a matter of fact, just spent most of the day yesterday working on the parameters letter, telling the department heads where the county wants to go, what limits we want to use for borrowing, and what we need for levy and this sort of thing. So I'm still doing that. And I'm on the legislative and judiciary committee, which is basically the one that does all the resolutions for pretty much political stuff, really. Okay. So it gets very interesting.
How do you see local governments, Rapids, Marshfield, working with the county more? Because there's duplication. We know that. Maybe there isn't duplication. I probably shouldn't say it that way, but there's a lot of similarities. And do you think bringing us together more is a good idea in certain things? Not as in fire, and I'm not looking at it that way. Just learning from each other. How about that?
I think we're going to be forced to be more interactive in the future. I used to complain, when I was a mayor, I used to complain that the public expects us to do more and more with less and less, so ultimately we will do everything with nothing. And that's where we're going. That's where we're going. It's when an economy gets tough and people really, really worry about paying their taxes, then the pressure comes on government to give them relief. And that happens in cycles, and it's going to happen again. It's probably going to happen again this year. We really don't know what COVID-19 is going to do to us. So, I think we're going to be pushed to find some interfacing that we can do to help save money. And I'm all for it. I just don't want to cut things to the bone so badly that we lose our ability to meet the mission that we were assigned to do.
Yeah, and we have Marshfield has a local identity, Rapids has a local identity. I've worked in both. They are different quite a bit. And that's kind of nice, and you as on the county board see that, and
Yes.
here I was able to see that too. It's night and day difference, and there's good and there's bad on both sides.
There's a real difference in the cultures.
So much different.
Yes, and there are some county board members who will not cross into the city limits of Marshfield.
Yeah.
But it is it's still there's still a reason why we have to work together on this thing.
Yeah. Well, if you ever build a jail, who knows if it'll be there or maybe in Pittsville.
Pittsville. That's the answer.
That's the answer.
That's the only way to start a civil war. To stop a civil war is put it in Pittsville. Right?
Actually, the whole thing, court and all, put it right there.
Actually, that's not a bad idea.
I mean, and then the police can be right there for sheriff's department and less travel, all the world.
Well, we had many battles. I mean, when we lost the DA's office up here,
yes, you're right.
When we lost the courts up here, and so there's some latent resentment in Marshfield towards.
And we're bigger though, as in population of the city.
We're not.
We're not now.
Well, we are in. If you take a look at just the cities, but take a look at the Grand Rapids.
I know that's growing.
And Port Edwards,
Nakusa.
All the
Saratoga's even big.
Yes, yeah, it is. It is. I have some real experience with Saratoga, as you remember.
Yeah,
you remember that one.
I know all of that.
Yeah.
I didn't get to cover, but I listened to it plenty of times. So I know all the same things down there that are up here. So it's a good thing. But yeah, it's nice to have you back on the council. And people, I'm sure, tune in and listen to what you have to say, as well as your colleagues on the council. Any other pieces that you would like to say? I know we want to try to keep this into a half hour, and that goes as fast as you can think.
Yeah, it does.
We'll definitely have you back on and talk about maybe where you are towards the end of your term, and see if you're going to run again. That's always a decision on yourself and how it went. And I'm sure we'll be able to hear from you from time to time and get good information. But like I said, I appreciate you coming by and get to know you better. I'll just leave the floor here to you a little bit if you have anything else you want to say to the public, and I'll just let it go from here, and go ahead and you can mention what you like.
Basically, I would like them to know that I consider myself a public servant. I don't consider myself as a leader or a dictator. I try not to be that. But I'm here to give them the very best government and the very best in services for their dollar that they can get out of here. And so I will continue to do that, and I will do it with joy. I enjoy doing this. I don't know any place I'd rather be. And hopefully we'll make things a lot better.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Ed. I appreciate it. I thank our viewers here for watching us on our program Connections. And from time to time, I'm going to have different alder men and alder women, I shall say. There's one on there.
One.
Just one. And invite those on as well as anybody else that may serve on a committee from time to time. Again, thanks for watching us. I'm Tom Laux, Communications Director for the City of Marshfield, and we'll see you next time on Connections.